Thursday, August 31, the one flesh model of marriage. Study the creation narrative of Genesis 2:15 to 25. What happens in the story before the statement concerning a husband and wife being one flesh in verse 24? Let's start at verse 15. Then the Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to tend and keep it. And the Lord God commanded the man, saying, Of every tree of the garden you may freely eat, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die. And the Lord God said, It is not good that man should be alone. I will make him a helper comparable to him. Out of the ground the Lord God formed every beast of the field and every bird of the air, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call them. And whatever Adam called every living creature, that was its name. So Adam gave names to all cattle, to the birds of the air, and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found a helper comparable to him. And the Lord God caused a deep sleep to fall on Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs, and closed up the flesh in its place. Then the rib which the Lord God had taken from man he made into a woman, and he brought her to the man. And Adam said, This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, because she was taken out of man. Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. And they were both naked, the man and his wife, and were not ashamed. A key to applying Paul's counsel to wives and husbands is to see his citation of Genesis 2:24 in Ephesians 5:31. For this reason a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh, as the culmination of it. As he meditates on the creation story of Genesis, Paul considers the needs of Christian congregations and the health of family relationships within them. He hears in Genesis 2:24 a message that echoes down through time. By divine design, marriage is intended to be a one-flesh relationship with sexual unity mirrored in emotional and spiritual unity, and emotional and spiritual unity bringing meaning to the sexual relationship. Note that in choosing Genesis 2:24, Paul selects a statement about marriage made before the fall and applies it to the relationships between Christian husbands and wives. In our distinctly post-fall world, rampant exploitation of the sexual relationship between a man and a woman reveals how deeply entrenched in modern cultures is the idea that the sexual union represents subjugation of the woman. Paul argues that the sexual relationship, as reflected in Genesis, is not one of subjugation, but of union. It does not symbolize or actualize the dominance of the male, but the union of husband and wife, so much so that they are one flesh. We may look to both Ephesians 5:21 to 33 and Genesis 2:24 then for an important countercultural and corrective theology of marriage and sexuality. In the same context, Paul, in the next verse, talks about a profound mystery in verse 32. This includes both sides of the double metaphor Paul has been discussing. Christian marriage, understood in the light of Christ's relationships to his church in Ephesians 5:32, and Christ's relationship with his church, understood in the light of Christian marriage in the same verse. Christian marriage is elevated by comparing it to the relationship between Christ and the church. In addition, by thinking of the church's relationship to Christ through the lens of a caring Christian marriage, believers gain new clarity about their shared relationship to Christ. And so to finish the day, in what ways does Ephesians 5:33 serve as a concise summary of Paul's counsel in Ephesians 5:21 to 32? Let's read that verse, Ephesians 5 33. Nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. If married, how can you seek to more fully implement these principles in your marriage?